Welcome in to the Rockies Insider. I'm your host, Patrick Lyons, talking about three-game series with the Tampa Bay Rays, a Rockies loss in that series. They are able to take one of three. We'll talk about the series, take all games, and figure out what some of the early problems are for the 2025 Colorado Rockies. There's some things that they're not having problems with just yet. In fact, you might even say they are excelling at. But let's talk about Sunday's game. That's probably what you just got done watching. A 6-4 loss at the hands of those Tampa Bay Rays, third ever game at George M. Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. Rockies had won Saturday with platinum glove-esque defense by just about everybody. And on Sunday, they lost because they were just not good defensively. There were some miscues on the field, a pop-up that landed between Jacob Stallings and Ryan McMahon ended up being no harm, no foul. You did see Tyler Freeman botching what would have been an inning-ending double play in the sixth. Seems like there might have been a little miscommunication, perhaps, between him and Tovar, but that ends up leading to a few more runs because a sac bunt gets airmailed by Jacob Stallings. He throws the ball away. That opens the floodgates for a 4-run bottom of the sixth inning at a time in which the Rockies were tied 2-2. They had an opportunity to actually steal a series, open with a better than 500 record, something that they haven't done since 2023 when they won the first two games of the season. Beginning of last year, 2024, they were down and they were down bad. But they actually had an opportunity despite not playing great. They didn't play great this weekend in Tampa, a place that they've notoriously not played well. Miami is another one of those places where they haven't, fared terribly well despite, some not great teams, certainly in Miami, a little bit better, obviously, in Tampa historically. But the excuse of going down to sea level doesn't really fit when you begin your season at sea level. And sure, you're playing at some altitude in Phoenix, Arizona. But again, that argument falls flat. You've been playing baseball at altitude and then at sea level for now. This is their 33rd season. You've got to be able to figure out a way to do something like that. Lux in the chat, go ahead and drop in a comment or question on the YouTube side of things. Should have won the series, but wasn't bad. Strikeouts still a big issue. Michael Tolia, probably the biggest offender there. 6 strikeouts in his 11 at-bats. On Friday, had an opportunity in game one in the first inning with runners on first and third. Got to put a little bit more of that on Kris Bryant, batting cleanup, striking out on 3 pitches. At that point, 2 outs. You need a lot more than just a fly ball or a ground ball it's not going to induce a double play. So Tolia did strike out in that moment, and then 5 others over the course of this weekend. Mikey saying Zach needs to work on his bat flip. He's faring pretty well so far down in Albuquerque. Couple hits already in Sacramento. And as Lux pointing out, sure, I was going to get to that later. Chase Dollander starting in AAA today, right now, after Gomber on Friday and Tanner Gordon on Saturday. But this series was certainly one that was winnable. You saw the typical flaws of the Rockies with striking out with runners in scoring position, not putting the ball in play, not scoring a ton of runs. In fact, they scored 2 runs in all 3 games this weekend. 6 runs total. It was good enough on one of those days, not good on the other 2. Excuse me. They scored 4 runs on Sunday. They ended up getting those 2 runs late, which was really interesting how they got those 2 runs. Historic, you might even say. I'll talk about that in just one moment. But Sunday starter Ryan Feltner did his job. I would argue he was better than Antonio Senzatela on Saturday, despite the fact that Feltner was the first Rockies starter to allow a run. Now, this is the longest they've ever gone without having their rotation giving up a run to start a season. Kyle Freeland, 6 scoreless innings on Friday. Senzatela, 4 1/3 scoreless frames of work on Saturday. he got hit around and he escaped a lot of damage because of some incredible defense. Incredible defense. First inning, Feltner ends up giving up those runs. But then after that, he pitched a lot better. I believe he had 11 in a row at one point. So did Taj Bradley for the Rays, where the Rockies, again, just couldn't gain any traction, any momentum. And, that was somewhat the story of the game early on, but Feltner quieted down and he was able to get through 5 innings, gave up 4 hits, those 2 runs in the first, walked 1, struck out 5. So overall, really solid. The run support eventually came a little bit later, where Martini had the RBI single in the 5th. He looked great, much better at bats than you saw from the first 2 games of the series. He had 3 hits today, and then an RBI single for Hunter Goodman in the 6th, which tied the game. And I think you're really starting to see it's 3 games. It's a small sample size, but after the spring that Hunter Goodman had, I think it's very possible that he becomes the breakout player for the Rockies in 2025. Now, in the comments, we're seeing folks talking about Zach Veen. Sure, maybe Zach Veen still ends up becoming a breakout player for the Rockies. But as of right now, he's not going to be a breakout player because he's not on the roster and he's not playing. Hunter Goodman, on the other hand, he is playing. In fact, he started the first 2 games behind the plate, catching for both Freeland and Senzatela, which bodes well for him possibly to be on the majority side of the split with Jacob Stallings. Certainly they could go 50-50, but typically you're going to catch 3 of the 5 guys in the rotation. The other catcher is going to catch 2 out of 5. And so right now, looking really well for Goodman to be able to catch a majority of the days. But he gets the day off on Sunday, gets the day off from being behind the plate, but ends up DHing and hitting cleanup. So he was hitting 6th the first 2 games of the series, gets moved up to the cleanup spot, batting 4th. Kris Bryant not in the lineup, getting a day off. Friday and Saturday were his first 2 days playing a full game for the Rockies this season. And really, I should say this year. It's not a very long year, but in spring training, he had only played on back-to-back days twice, and even still, he had 2 plate appearances in each of those. So he exited a little bit early. And Goodman not only just getting the vote of confidence from Bud Black, but also coming through in that spot in the 6th inning, I think really speaks volumes as to how many more opportunities he's going to get and how he might do in those chances, in those opportunities. In the chat, Goodman is my mom's favorite player. Not mine, literally. Actually, he is, because he's everybody's mom's favorite player. We know that. Blake Street Banner giving him that excellent nickname. Thank you. I think that's supposed to be Mickey. We'll talk about Mickey Moniak in just a second, because it's 2-2 going into the bottom of the 6th, and the bullpen, unfortunately, let the Rockies down again. Luis Peralta, who was fine on Saturday, ended up getting 2 outs. He walked a batter, struck out 1. Not as sharp as he was on Saturday here in back-to-back games. Kinley comes in, is only able to get 1 out, and between the 2 of them, they're charged with 4 runs in the bottom of the 6th. Jake Bird needs to finish the inning, and then he goes out with 2 more scoreless innings of work. Jake Bird, I've said it before, I'll say it again, he's going to have a very solid big league career. He may have his moments where he struggles, but he is a guy that has value in the back end of a bullpen. And again, he's going to have his moments where he slips up, but he's going to have way more good moments than bad moments. Now, the offense wasn't great in this game. Again, they only ended up scoring 8 runs, and 4 of those runs today did end up coming late. 2 of them came in 1 swing by Mickey Moniak. But the offense wasn't great. Blake Street Banner talked about this. I was talking with them about the fact that the Rockies hadn't homered in the first 2 games of the season. How rare is that? I figured it wasn't that rare because the Rockies typically do start their season on the road. That's something that they like. That's something that owner Dick Monfort usually requests. All teams are allowed to make certain scheduling requests over the course of the 162-game season. And one of the things that the Rockies tend to prefer, and they put at the top of their list, is not starting the season at home, because Colorado is not a place like California or Florida, maybe even Texas, or any place that has a retractable roof. So the deeper you can go into the season, even if it's only 1 week, odds are it's going to increase the likelihood of better weather. Again, over 100 years, that one extra week will, more times than not, be a good thing. That being said, the weather for this weekend coming up on Friday does not look great. I haven't checked it since this morning, but it wasn't looking very good for the weather when the A's come to town. In fact, right now on Friday, 45% chance of rain. Temperatures at about 30 degrees on the low side. On the high, it might get to 49. We may have to wait until Sunday or Monday before we get some sunshine in Denver. So not great, but they start typically on the road. That's something that they just do. And because of that, you tend to think, okay, they're probably not going to benefit with as many home runs. It's 5 other times the Rockies had not homered in the first 2 games of the season: 2000, 2003, 2006, 2020, and 2025 was that 5th time. And we got into the 6th inning. We got past the 6th inning without a home run. And that wasn't actually the longest streak, because in 2006, they played 11 games on the first day. So essentially it was tied, although the streak in 2006 was 1 inning longer before you finally got that home run, when Mickey Moniak, the one guy on the team that had yet to start a game, but he ran back the lineup for game 1 in game 2. I guess you could say it worked because they did win the game. They scored the same amount of runs. But in game 3, you had Kyle Farmer getting the day off of his feet. Tyler Freeman went out to second base. And as I mentioned, Jacob Stallings started the game as catcher with Goodman as the DH. But Mickey Moniak yet to start a game. He ends up coming off the bench in that 7th inning. And not only is his first hit a pinch hit home run for the Rockies, becoming the 3rd player to ever do that in Rockies history. Their first base hit is a pinch hit home run, but it's his first ever pinch hit home run as a big leaguer. 14 home runs the last 2 seasons, but none of those came in a pinch hit performance. So Mickey Moniak doing a nice job to have his moments. And again, unfortunately, not enough, as Rockies still end up losing 6-4. Who else had their first home run was a pinch hit home run? I believe Jay Gaynor was one in 95. After that, I couldn't tell you. I know Sam Hilliard had some big moments back in 2019. Could he be the second? I'll have to get back to you on that. But Nick Martini with the 3 hits and the RBI to end up starting the scoring. And Rockies go down 1 win to 2 losses. And, unfortunately, because of the Dodgers, who were off today too, which I think is rather strange. Dodgers off on Sunday. We know they had the 2 early games on in the season, but they didn't have a day built in like a lot of teams, where you play on opening day on Thursday and then you might be off on Friday in case there's a rain out. Usually not the issue in LA. So they get their 3 games in. They take their off day on Sunday, but the Dodgers 5-0 to start the year. Padres 3-0 at the time of recording. We'll see if they can polish off the absolute mopping of the Atlanta Braves. And so the Rockies fall to 1-2, and they're already 3 games back of first place. They're sort of used to that, right? Looking at the standings isn't something you typically do until Memorial Day. And if you're the Rockies, you might not really want to be looking at the standings in general. Standings were okay on Saturday with the 2-1 win, as Antonio Senzatela walked an absolute tightrope. Just traffic all day long, giving up base hits, didn't give up the long ball. He was able to avoid that in 4 1/3 scoreless innings of work. But it was all about defense. In fact, one of the comments even coming from the Rays clubhouse and some of their beat reporters and radio broadcast people was that it may have been one of the single best defensive performances they had ever seen from one team. You had early on, one of the reasons why Senzatela was able to have a scoreless performance was a pair of outfield assists at home plate, 2 runners getting gunned down, not by the Colorado Cannons known as Brenton, Doyle, and Nolan Jones. Fortunately, we can't really call at least that pair the Colorado Cannons. Doyle is still around. He might need to be the singular Colorado Cannon. But Jordan Beck did it first to get Junior Caminero at home plate. And then Nick Martini joined in on the party. You had a couple double plays there that thwarted a rally. Tovar with a great backhanded play. And Brenton Doyle with yet another full extension diving grab. And those two, not really going to say that they've gotten themselves out to a lead in the Platinum Glove Award voting or in the Platinum Glove Award contest. But those are 2 guys that when you are perennial Gold Glove finalists, you're very well going to be in that conversation as best overall defender. I think Doyle has a leg up on Tovar because he's got the 2 Gold Gloves. And I think, and I've written about this before, Doyle just lends his style of play in center field to getting a lot more recognition for his defense because he is a guy that is laying out for balls, is able to have multiple great defensive plays, not just with a diving catch or a sliding catch or robbing a home run, but then also with the outfield assist and throwing guys out on the bases, which are going to be fewer and farther between as teams very well know the scouting report and know not to try to get that extra base. It's going to be dicey to do that. So teams are going to err on the side of caution. So that's going to give him less opportunities to do that. But even still, those highlight reels that he is going to be able to put together over the course of the 2025 season could be enough to earn him the Platinum Glove Award, whereas Tovar isn't making quite as many flashy plays. He's just incredibly consistent. In the chat, bought Rockies TV on Saturday, and Rockies rewarded me with a win because of the defense. You may have also even seen that there's going to be a couple Rockies games available on television. They were able to bring together a deal with 9 News to broadcast 10 games on KTVD, Channel 20, this upcoming season. So these 10 games are actually going to be made available for free over the air to viewers throughout the region. 5 games are also going to be simulcast on KUSA 9 News. And that's a nice thing to know that in a city where there's been so many, blackouts where you haven't really been able to watch the Avs or the Nuggets in the past. Now it's becoming a little bit easier to watch the Rockies, maybe even a little bit more affordable. So that was some nice news that ended up coming out over the course of this past week. So really happy for fans to have that experience. Game 1, I talked about it on Friday just a little bit. Freeland, excellent in 6 innings pitched, 2 weak base hits by the Rays, didn't give up any runs, didn't allow any walks, 7 strikeouts, was absolutely outstanding on those 67 pitches. Unfortunately, bullpen let them down. Tyler Kinley more than anyone. And then Victor Vodnik going out there for a 2nd inning, which also a curious choice. First pitch home run by Cameron Meisner on his 2nd career ever base hit. That, of course, is baseball. I talked about Hunter Goodman and how good he got it right now. He's kind of that breakout candidate right now. It's only been 3 games, but it should be noted that he also had a double in game 1 and in game 2, only the 3rd catcher in franchise history to collect a double in each of the club's first 2 games. Chris Iannetta did it back in 2011, and Joe Girardi did that back in 1995. You probably heard a little bit about the debut of Jeff Mangum, 29-year-old, had to suffer through the minors for a while. Friend of Gardner Minshew. The thing that was my takeaway was the fact that every time he came up to the plate, you could hear it in the background. It would be the outfield playing their smash hit, Your Love. So Jeff Mangum, in the first series the Rockies play in 2025, after the retirement of Charlie Blackmon in 2024, who made Your Love by the Outfield an iconic baseball song, Mangum steps to the plate with the same tune. That's baseball. That's the beauty and the poetry of the national pastime. You love to absolutely see that. Also during Sunday's game, Tyler Freeman was hit on the wrist. Wasn't sure if we are going to start to see a little beanball thing going on back and forth between the Rays and Rockies there, but it did end up stopping at a certain point. Freeman came out of that game. It was more for the pitching matchup. That's who Mickey Moniak was pinch hitting for when he tagged that pinch hit 2-run home run. Still the only homer for the Rockies so far this season. And now Moniak is going to be going to Philadelphia to play against the team that drafted him first overall in the 2016 MLB draft. So again, baseball and the poetry that is baseball. Pretty cool to see that. I imagine he might get, his first start in the outfield. Some of that's going to depend on the matchup. It's going to be Germán Marquez versus Christopher Sanchez. So still might get another game of Nick Martini out there, and Moniak's going to have to wait for a different opportunity. We'll see what happens with that. Maybe we'll get surprised and Moniak will get that start. But Freeman hit on the wrist, got plunked. X-rays ended up coming back negative, so doesn't seem like an IL stint will be what's needed, but you can certainly bet on Kyle Farmer getting himself back into the lineup and starting at second base. So Lux in the chat, Coors Field is the only stadium that will sing tonight. That's right. I kept waiting to hear it, and I literally didn't hear a single voice. There was a shotgun mic behind home plate where you could hear a lot of different voices, a lot of folks chirping at the players because it has that like minor league ballpark atmosphere where those handful of people, drunkards perhaps, get drowned out by the larger buzz of the crowd. Nope, you could hear just about everybody. Mikey in the chat, hopefully the Rockies can capitalize against the Phillies, who lost to the Nats today. Trey Turner, Real Muto, Weston Wilson, Ranger Suarez, all on the IL or day-to-day. Again, opportunity for the Rockies to play well. Take a game. Sure. Look, on the road, it's going to be hard to win series, certainly against teams that are postseason contenders. The Rays are always there. The Rays are going to be in that mix. I think they're going to be above 500. I think they'll miss out on the postseason, but the Rays are going to be a 500 team, especially after a lot of the things that I saw this weekend from them. Was not overly impressed with the bats, but it might take a while for them to get warmed up. The Phils, I got them winning the NL East, so taking series, winning series on the road is going to be a challenge for the Rockies. But if they can hold serve just a little bit, taking 1 out of 3 and then once in a while winning a series, playing strong at home can be something that allows them to maybe get to that 70 win plateau. Even if you're taking 1 out of every 3 on the road and you're about 500, at home, you're going to end up with one of the better winning percentages of the last couple years. That's just kind of how it goes right now. So Rockies take 1 out of 3 from the Tampa Bay Rays. Monday, they've got a game against the Phillies at Citizens Bank Park. The opener for the Phillies at home in Philadelphia. It's going to be Germán Marquez against Christopher Sanchez. Tuesday is going to be an off day. Myself and Noah Spirek will be broadcasting live on YouTube for the Blake Street Banner channel, the Rockies Insider on Blake Street Banner. So we'll have a show for you on Tuesday night. Probably be doing one on Monday. That's a 1:05 start. So right around dinner time, I'll probably be going live for a post-game show on Monday, and then Wednesday and Thursday, Rockies back in Philadelphia to wrap that series up. 11:05 on Thursday. So, you got used to it a little bit during spring training with these early games in the middle of the day, in the middle of your work day. Now they count. Now they mean something for these games. Going through here my my social media. What else did I possibly miss? A lot of you guys are probably already following me at Patrick D. Lyons on the X, on Blue Sky, as well as TikTok. Yep, talked about the Charlie Blackmon there. Rockies Insider writing about the Rockies starting a day late and 1 run short on their version of opening day. You can see a clip of Brenton Doyle just absolutely ranging to right center to make a fantastic play. You can see Nick Martini in right field, gunning the runner down at home. Really, really strong defense. And the thing that I briefly touched on Friday and figured, I don't know, maybe this has happened. Maybe this isn't a stat. Everything can be a stat if you phrase it properly, right? Anything can be. But with the walk-off win, the walk-off home run by the Rays on Friday, you think back and say, well, wait a minute. The Rockies home opener, because this was the Rays home opener as well. It was their opening day, but also their home opener at George M. Steinbrenner Field. If you think back to 2024, think back to what happened with Ryan McMahon with the walk-off grand slam against the Rays. Well, you've got back-to-back walk-off home run in respective home openers in consecutive years for the Rockies and Rays. Yes, of course, that's the first time that has ever happened in baseball history. How beautiful is that? Thanks again for joining me. Thanks for the momentum. Lux, Mikey, appreciate you. Condon, he's just going to be out for a while with that wrist. Could be a couple months. We'll see. Appreciate everybody joining me. Give me that momentum. But as I like to say, momentum can only be as good as your next show. So I will talk to you Monday post-game after that Phillies matchup. See ya.